Okay, back. So you see I have a little X here. That was to remind me what ones not to put red on. So I've got a kneaded erase here, and I need to pull the X up. I put the X down with just regular a regular pencil and very gently. And if you do that and you don't get it wet, it'll erase up very, very easily. If you get it wet, then that's a whole other story. We don't want to go there. So let's take, in fact, let's just put a little water in first. This is just insurance that I keep it light enough because I have a fairly strong mixture here in my palette. Oh, that still looks like a lot. Okay. I think I'm going to add in more water, and then let's pull this into this corner. I don't know what I've got on this brush right now. Nothing, apparently. Okay. So I have to be careful that I keep it wet enough, first of all, so that the moon glow can granulate. That's part of it. And secondly, because I want it to spread very nicely. I think when this is dry that this will be pretty close to what she's got there. You know, I happen to have, well, maybe I don't. Thought I had. It's just gray now. I have some Gertite, which is also a good granulating color. But I thought I had it on my palette, but I don't. You know, we'll just pick up a little bit more of this red. See where it kind of bled from this other wet spot over here? Let's just put a little more color there in that corner. This is different from hers. She's got a little bit more of the cool color over there, I think. Yeah. But I like what that's doing, and that's what I got. So you kind of let these things happen and appreciate how darn good they are. Okay. I really like, I don't believe this will show up on camera very well. This little area right here is not black. It probably looks black on camera. It's a really dark, again, purpley thing, barely purple, you know, grade purple, which is the moon glow, or it looks like moon glow. So I'm going to fill that in now because I kind of want to get that done and out of the way before I screw it up and forget. So I want this to be pretty dark. I'd rather get it in one application. I want it to be pretty dark, but I want it to contrast. This kind of vibrates with the reds, and part of the reason it works is it may be outlined in something dark, because she outlines a lot, and part of it is because her work is so much about the silhouette shape that she plays up the shape by outlining it. So where sometimes we might want to not do that, in this particular case, I think it's a lovely thing to do. So you may see me making a lot of little tiny strokes. They're very gentle, no pressure, because if you have to press to get your watercolor to come off your brush, it is too dry. You can count on that. All right. So there we go here. Now what's next? We've got two more petals right here and here, as you can see. And I'm not going to do those on the video, but I'm going to start with this big leaf, and let's do several leaves. You know what? I probably need to separate these videos. Okay, this is filmed as part 2, but it is really still the first lesson. I was looking at this, and this is just a little too pale. It just does not look like a petal, which it is, well, sort of. So I'm going to take this the tiniest bit of color here and move just a little bit. Ooh, that might even be enough. Well, maybe not. Need some back up here. Okay. This has got more red in it than hers, but I like it. Hers looks perfect, but I don't think mine is working without this. This right up in there, and maybe a tiny bit down here. Okay, yeah, that's better. It'll also be better, see, as these are built in, because these also have more of the gray in them. And this, look at this one. Oh, this one has some red in it. Now remember, we're adding the really strong darks later on top with hematite and a lot of water. But that's later on. So, let's look at this. Where did I just set my brush down? Okay. Step 3, do not lose your brush. Oh, here it is. There we go. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to do a leaf. And I'm going to keep it really, really wet. And once again, here we've got this color, which I think has a lot of moon glow in it. The smart thing to do would be to test the color out. I guess this is in the picture. Oh yeah, that's perfect. See, it's got a coolness to it. It's not a perfect gray, perfectly neutral gray. Okay, let's do some of this then. This leaf is fairly intense. Again, though, we'll be adding black on top of it later. And I want that corner. It's not really a corner, but it's a, yeah, it looks like a corner, actually. Now, the other thing that she does is she lets a color change a little bit. In her work, she's not doing that as much on this one as she did on the others. I think in part because the color change is happening between the leaves. Oh, did I get that too strong? I don't know. So I like my big soppy brush, but sometimes you got to do something different. And I'm going to turn this so that I have control over this little bitty area. Now this little bitty area will probably get some black in it later, so it'll still stand out, but we'll try to keep it there. But if I get a little bit of color shift here, I will be very happy about that. Right there. Well, I wasn't quite as precise as I wanted to be. A lot of this will look better when it gets a pen laid to it too. Whoa, whoa, that's a little too strong. Just add some more water. So here's the thing, when you're working with watercolor, you can't measure these things precisely. I have no desire to anyway. But the fact is that what you can do is simply adjust every time that I load up my brush. Every time I lay something down on the paper, I am ready to make an adjustment. It's not like it's some kind of alarm adjustment, like, oh no, I have to do something. It's more like this is part of the routine. This is how you work with watercolor. You see what's happening. In fact, probably a lot of the time when one is painting, even if you're not using watercolor, you kind of see what is happening in front of you and you react to it. It's kind of a dance between the painter and the art. So there. See, I'm pretty happy with that. Now that's uneven. And I'm also happy with it being uneven. So let's just add in, if I can do it before this starts to dry, I'll just add in a little bit more of something. Let that extra color float in there. It's going to float in there kind of unevenly. There. So I'm going to get some areas with more granulation. Also with this moon glow, you can see the colors beginning to separate. Clean up that spot right there. Beginning to separate. I'm getting a little bit more blue over here, a little bit more purple up there. Oh, that looks pretty darn good. It's a little more colorful than hers. But I'm okay with it. And remember, I'm being careful about color. Oh, look, we've got splatters. Well, so what? I'm really trying to imitate what she is doing here as much as I can, because I think it is just so well done. Let's float in just a little bit of red in this one, because that's what she did. I'm really imitating her because I'm trying to learn from her. And this is in her book. I don't think she describes in her book much about how she went about this one. Whoa, 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 whoa. Little too much color on the end of my brush. And it's more color than what I expected. I don't want this area to dry, so I'm re-wetting it with this really wet brush, because I want to keep this soupy. It would be best if this had a little bit more of the green in it, because that will gray it down just a little bit. When you mix the green with the, yeah, there we go. When you mix the green, can't talk. Wait a minute. Okay. Let's get it up here too. I'm trying to keep both ends of this wet, because I started in the middle. You know, a smart person would have started at one end, and then you'd only have to keep one end wet instead of two of them. So don't do what I just did. Do it like somebody else would do it. Do it like you would do it. However that is. Okay. Let's pick up just a little bit more. Oh, got a little bit more of the purple. I didn't want that there. And let's pull it up this way. There. It's not bad. Oh, let's see. A little bit more green over here. Wonder what would happen. This leaf behind it's going to be lighter. So I might just do that. I don't want a lot of green where I'm using the reds because it kind of goes a little bit dead. Okay, I'm happy with that. You know, we need a neutral color for the backs of some of these petals and for some of these leaves. Oh, and then, see these backs here, and there, and there. And then we also need, I have never done this one red either. We also need some brown. And here's the thing. I have this stuff. This stuff is called Gertite. You know, I think even Cheap Joe might be selling this in big tubes now. So this is Goethite. It is brown ochre, and it granulates a whole lot. So I'm thinking, yeah, because it's got a little more yellow to it than anything that I've put in the picture. And this has got quite a bit of yellow in it. What I would like to do is make this work. I would like to make this work because it will granulate. And I would like a clean place to put it. Okay, right over here. So you can't see where I'm putting it, but I'm putting it somewhere. I've got a couple of tubes of this for use in the classroom. So don't worry if you don't have it. Now, to go with that, I'm going to use my gray, which means I'm going to put a little bit more green into this. Let's see what happens here. Okay, let's go there. And then let's drop in a lot of this. See what happens. So I'd like the brown to dominate a little bit. Is that even in the picture? I can't tell if it was. There. Okay, now this is going to granulate like crazy, I think, and I'm okay with the color I've got here. It's going to have to merge with some of these, and to do so, there's got to be some transitional pieces that are also partway between this and this. Although these two are still pretty near neutral, they're kind of, well, let's just call those the far end of the spectrum of what I really want to get here in order to copy her. So let's look at this leaf right here, which gets very pale. A lot like that, doesn't it? In fact, exactly like that. Okay. Well, in that case, we need to mix up a neutral of some kind. I've got one here, right here, that's got the green, and I think it's got a little bit of that brown in it. Oh, if it doesn't get all mixed together, which it is, because I'm too lazy to go find a clean palette. All right. Let's put this down here. Oh, and that goes through to here. Again, my drawing kind of left a few things out, but this will be close enough. The other thing you should do is don't start two places at once. When you're lucky enough to have an area that is small and off to itself, you don't have to do that at the same time that you do this one. In fact, the smart thing would be not to. Now, again, I don't want to spend a lot of effort spreading this, because the more I spread, the less granulation I'll get, even from a granulating paint. So now this has actually got a little red in it. Let's add a little red to the brown. Let's start getting a little bit darker right here. But again, I'm using coral or Quinburnt scarlet. Shoot, it must be the scarlet. And we'll go from there. This is one of those that really does change color quite a bit. To, I hope this is going to be a gray. Yes, gray, not purple. The other thing, you don't want this to look like stripes and like it just, you want it graduated. In fact, one of the things you could do is you can always, if you're having a little trouble with blending, you can always tilt your paper a little bit. Now we want to go darker. We're just trying to imitate what she's done. You could also make a separate layer and go darker, but again, that will probably minimize your granulation. You get a better granulation effect. You do it all at once, except when we use the hematite, because the hematite is just going to go on top to darken some areas. And we'll put it on with a lot of water. But if you put this on thin, without a lot of water, and you're just brushing, you'll kill your granulation. All right. I'm reasonably happy with this. I should get the thing dry, though, before I do anything more. And don't run it to the hairdryer when you're doing granulation, because once again, that'll take it all out. Okay. See if I can mix up a little more of this. Okay. It'd be best to keep that flat. So let's take some of this and, whoops, and let's take out the X's. And let's just put in a little of this, what would you call this, taupe or something? Now remember, it's going to dry lighter than that. I'm pulling up a little bit of it, though. I think that'll work. Actually, I think that's pretty good. Oh, wait a minute. Is that? Yeah, that one's like that. Okay. Again, this is pretty wet. I'm using a small brush, but it is a black velvet, so it will carry a nice amount of water. Some of the newer synthetics are beginning to be pretty good. I've always stayed away from them and told people not to use them, but now they've improved the quality, and they can actually act more like a natural hairbrush. In fact, these black velvets are only half real squirrel. See, now this time I remember, just start on one part. There. And here. This seems a little darker. It's wet, but also remember, we haven't put our blacks in. When the blacks go in, this will appear lighter. There. Let's see, where else do we need this? This one in her picture is, well, it's kind of more red than anything else, But I think we'll just go ahead and I might put just a touch of red in with it. She's got a little bit more of a cool tone to hers. Whoop, I need some red. I need some red. I'll make it a reddish beigeish thing. Write that down, reddish beigeish. Okay, there. Hey, that's not bad. In fact, I think that's pretty damn good. I think that's as good as hers, almost. Well, not the whole painting, just this spot. Okay. Now let's look at this one. This stands behind here. It's got a lot of that beigeish tone to it with a little bits of gray. It's a pretty quiet, pale thing. And I'm going to turn the paper this way so that I can work on it. I might even put some water up here. And then I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I'm using a little bit of Gertite into a pale mixture of the Moon Glow and Perylene. I love the way these brushes feel. Sometimes I use them when it's not even very appropriate, but I love the way they feel. Then it got a little bit darker as it went towards the top, but you know, most of that could be done with the hematite. I think I'll save this to put hematite at the top of it. Well, let's get a little bit darker up here. Well, I didn't mean to get that much darker, but I did. Okay. Whatever. Let's stagger that. Let's not just go straight across there. There. Okay. Something like that. That works for me. So we got these beiges and almost grays with red. Now, one of the things that I discovered when working on one of these before is that it could get a little bit depressing because you don't have those pops of dark going on yet. And so it might lift my spirits just a bit if I popped in some of the darks now so that it'll just look better to me. Okay, so I have a couple of different pens here. Let's just try them out up here. This is an Elegant Rider. What does that look like? It looks like nothing, doesn't it? Well, we'll just wait. So I've got to take a wet brush and activate the Elegant Rider. And it's supposed to be black, but it's prettier than black. I know they've got phthalo in there. So you get this. which is really cool too if you've got using a sketchbook or, well, for a lot of things. Once that's been gotten wet and dry, it's pretty much set, so you're going to be okay. The other possibility, and this is an elegant writer, it's supposed to be a black, and you could use almost any side because if you use it's meant for calligraphy, but if you just use the corner part of it, you got a sharp point anyway. Then I've got some Micron pens here. Here's an 01. Let's see what it's like. Well, it's like dried up. It's only 5 or 10 years old. Oh, this one's good. Okay. So, if I wanted some really, really fine lines, I could use this. I don't think that this will move once it's wet. Yeah, see, that stays, well, it's bleeding just a tad. Maybe if I'd let it dry, it would have been okay. So, I'm suggesting that you might want to use these, or one or the other, or something else. I don't think you can find a Sharpie that's fine enough. This, like I said, this says the 08 on it. It might be the fatter one. Let's see, what is this one? This one says, that's funny. Oh, it's a brush. I don't want it. Okay. So I could make some fine lines with this. And I can fill in and make some like little darker areas if I want. And we may use a little bit of the, oh dear, can't talk. We might use a little bit of the hematite on this too. You can see already how that kind of perks it up. Tell you what, let's try that elegant writer. These two are out of the way. Let's try out this elegant writer. Let's put a little bit in right here. You want to start out looking pretty light because once it gets wet, it gets a lot heavier. And here, let's do a little bit right there. And by the way, you don't have to soften this while it's wet. You can let it dry, and it'll still. Let's make a little interesting end on this, because that's just part of her design work. Oh my, see how that looks? Okay. All right, so let's see. Small brush, because I don't want a lot of water coming down here. I've got to be real careful. Woo! But I have to get it all wet, because if I don't get it all wet, it might bleed later. Okay, now that is never going to granulate, so we still want our hematite. And I might even have to deepen some of these reds before I'm through, because now that I'm getting black on them, they may be too weak. Let's just pick up a little paint right there. This is the scarlet. I could also make a really red using the using rose and queen gold And I may just go back and do that. There. But you can see how that really pops this. And once you've got some definition on the edges, that just feels a lot more right. Okay. Well, let's just mix up a little rose. I'll just mix it right in here with the rest of this. A little bit of rose and some Queen Gold. And that is always like probably the most beautiful red that I can imagine. Let's see. Here's one of these petals. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's see what that does after it's dry. I think I'm going to like that. I think I'm going to like that better than what I was doing. Okay. So I might just get a couple more like that. So we've got some really intense red somewhere in here. I'm still getting some bleed here. You know what, I'm just going to put a little into this one. I think that black was just a little too intense for coral. Should have seen that one coming. Yeah. Let's put a little bit right there. And then let's soften it as we come down. Okay. Well, got to play with that one. Okay. We did the leaves. We did this. I did turn the camera back on. That's good. Oh, it's always good when you remember to turn the camera back on. So, this one and maybe a little bit right there. That's kind of like the background color. And this is some of the new red mixture. I think I better get some of that thicker paint, which happens to be the scarlet. Oh, I think this may be really interesting after it gets an outline. That gold is just good stuff. Let's just see what happens here. Okay. You just play with it some. But remember, the more you play, of course this doesn't have much of any granulation in it. It's just uneven there. But the more you play, when you've got granulation, the more you play with it, the more you lose your granulation. I really like that Queen Gold in that, though. Man, I really like that. I wonder what happened if I just glazed Queen Gold on top of what I've got. I wonder if that would make me happier. Probably not. Probably needs the red in it. Darn it. Well, now I'm getting sloppy and messing things up. All right. So I think that's the demo for the week. Okay, I'm going to say that this is too much black on here. I might have been better off with just a pen. We'll kind of have to see when it's got blacks in other places. But that's kind of strong there. It was a little hard to control too. Use a pen